Okay, so let me say this. The problem with socialism or communism is it has proximity with dictatorship. The reason is simple. For you to enforce something as simple as you regulating the prices of goods and commodities, it usually takes a bit of a tyranny for you to do that, as against letting the forces of supply and demand to determine the prices of these goods and commodities. But when government has to step in to do that, it usually takes force and tyranny for you to enforce that. And so it is no wonder why a country like China, we just talked about China now, China is very regulated. There is no free speech in China. You don't have your personal freedoms. Look at how they treated Chinese citizens during COVID lockdown, you know?
Yes.
So you don't have your freedoms, you don't have your civil liberties under a typical socialist or communist regime. And that is not congruent with the principles of democracy. And
Yeah.
so those are the real issues with socialism. Now, in theory, yes, it's okay when prices of goods and commodities are regulated in such a way that the average citizen will be able to afford them. But in the long run, does that always work though? Because when you regulate prices of goods and commodities, apart from the flagrant disregard of human rights that usually occurs in a socialist regime,
Mm.
also it hampers economic growth of the private sector. As an investor, I won't be able to invest in such an economy. I won't be easy doing that because I know the government can always regulate, come in at any point in time, regulate whatever it wants to regulate, and I may not be able to maximize my profits. And also, it's usually okay when private sectors do their thing. The more money they make, the more employees they're able to employ, right? The more a business grows, the more people that business employs. But when the government regulates, when the government serves as a regulator,
Mhm.
businesses won't be able to maximize their profits. Hence, they won't be able to employ more people, uh, uh, which in turn contributes more to the economy. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, sure. I want to agree with you on that point. If you want to talk about capitalism and human rights and freedom, yeah, I think you have to say capitalism really fits that view. Okay, capitalism really fits the view. Now, I want to quote a guy like President Reagan. Reagan, he said, you know, when his greatest fear is that governments become too powerful, in a way that they have to regulate the freedoms of their people. Now, in a way, people give up their freedom for their security, and that's what should I say communism and socialism brings. No, mostly communism, by the way. You know, the government has to come in to regulate a lot of things. To make sure you have enough food to eat, to make sure you're wealthy, and at least you have a minimum income. But on the other hand, they take away your freedom, in which you have to show complete loyalty to the government. It's not the best way to go. It's not the best way to go. But I think socialism can be just. Okay, if there is a system like that which cares about the welfare of people, but it is just in which it doesn't use the power to constrain them, to constrain their freedoms and their rights. I think that is what I would call just.